So down in the pit lane, getting ready for a very difficult qualifying session indeed. I'm going to see if I can talk to a few of the drivers. Most of the guys at the front end of the grid here have gone for wet tyres. Tyrone Stansfield definitely has. There's going to be a couple of other options. Oliver Moy has gone for wets. So too have both Harry Barlow and Mark Lawrence. Let's have a word with these guys at the front of the field. Harry, having seen the junior session now, it's difficult, but I guess the wet tyres at the moment are the safer option.
Yeah, it's definitely the better option. You can tell it's definitely wet. The curbs, they're hitting them and they're just nearly going off the track. So be around the outside and just hopefully see what happens.
Now, you were very strong in practice yesterday in dry conditions. In the wet, is there going to be any difference in your speed?
It's just a gamble, isn't it, really? We'll have to see what happens. But yeah, I like the rain, so again, we'll just see what happens.
Cheers, Harry. Thanks very much. We'll let you crack on with the prep. And over to last year's junior champion, Tyrone Stansfield. He'll know how Harry Graham is feeling today, and so, of course, Callum Gunning. This is a tricky one because, of course, you want to finish on a high at the end of this season, but these conditions make it a bit of a knife edge now.
Well, yeah, I'm just going to try and be careful and just make sure I stay on the track, get quite a lot of laps in, and I'll see what I can do.
As a driver, the kind of challenge of this sort of qualifying session where there's a bit of a difficulty of knowing whether it's dry or wet. I mean, do you relish this sort of challenge, or does it make it 10 times harder?
I'm not quite sure, but I know it will be hard.
Awesome. Thanks, Tyrone. Thank you very much indeed. A few of the other drivers getting themselves ready. Still deep in conversation. Actually, Matt Rainbow's a guest of the paddock here this weekend, having raced in the championship a few times. He's been racing in the Ginetta GT5 Challenge this year. And has obviously come back for another visit, as has Ginetta Junior driver Will Martin, who used to race in the championships, of course. The whistle has gone. Now, interestingly, there are a few drivers who have gone for slicks. Neil Fisher has gone slicks, so has George Friday. Will Checkley has as well. So has Paul Ozan, who was second in yesterday's practice sessions. Sean Port has. Matthew Pearce has gone wet. Sam Dimolo has gone wet. Massarella's gone wet. Matt Ogle has gone dry. Jack Gold, who's back in the paddock this weekend, has gone dry tyres as well. Number 2, Richard Evans. Now, critically, Richard Evans has gone wet. Now, that's another big name to have made a split decision there. Matthew Pearce has gone wet. What has Sam Faulkner done? I didn't actually see what tyres Sam Faulkner went on to. And that's the important one, because, of course, in terms of the championship fight, all Sam Faulkner actually has to do is start these 3 races and he will be champion, because even if he's dead last in all 3 of them, he will still be able to outscore Richard Evans, even if Richard wins all 3 races. But 1 DNS, and that changes the entire shape of the championship, and in these conditions that could happen. So it is a very interesting battle that we've got in front of us. I've just seen Dave Burns in the pits. He's on wet tyres as well, so they've declared it an open session. And this means that we genuinely have no idea who's called it right. With 9 minutes left to go in the session, there is so much at stake in this qualifying session, and nobody knows who's got it right, who's made the best call. And that just makes it all the more fascinating to observe. So Sam Faulkner needing to start all 3 races. He doesn't even need to finish all 3 races, because even if you start the race and then retire, you still score points. But he needs to score points in all, excuse me, more Darth Vader-ish, but he needs to score points in all 3 races. So the title won't be won for Sam Faulkner until he starts the race in race 3, having completed 2 of them already. And there's been a big off at Oblivion into Crook. That is Will Checkley, who's spun out on the way to turn 1. And that is basically all down to the fact that he's been on slicks. And Jack Golding's gone off as well. So Jack Golding trying to get himself going again. But unfortunately, Will Checkley looks like he's done. The risk of going on to slick tyres in these conditions obviously counting against him. A really big call. But several drivers are in the same boat, of course. Massarella running around. Richard Evans in the mix there as well. Now, the reason I didn't see what tyres Sam Faulkner went on to is because he hasn't got out on track yet. So I think they're going to make a last-minute call based on what the weather does. But Will Checkley, I'm afraid to say, is out of this qualifying session. He has not set a fast lap, and that is a disaster. So this is going to be a really exciting battle. Richard Evans in pole position for the moment, 3.7. So that's 12 seconds faster roughly than the juniors managed. So that would indicate that the slick tyres are the right way to go. So it looks to me as though Richard Evans has made the right call. Slicks is definitely the better option. So anybody who's gone on to slicks, I think, is going to end up at the end of the session being correct. Although Sam Dimolo now pops up to second place on the wet tyres. We're going to see a very fascinating order on the grid for this one. Sam Faulkner has yet to go out on track, by the way. He doesn't need to win the 3 races, he just needs to start them. He doesn't even need to finish them because he'll still score points if he starts the race. If he doesn't start the race, then he will score 0 points. And he's already had a round of this championship that he has missed. So that is technically his drop score if he starts all 3 races. He doesn't even need to win them, he just needs to start them. And that's the interesting bit. And it looks to me that because Sam Faulkner hasn't gone out onto the grid, he's not going to be allowed out onto the grid. So he's going to have to start the first race of the weekend from the back of the grid, as George Friday is now sat in 13th position and having spun off the circuit at the boot. So a bit of an incident there. Friday has got going again, I can tell you that. There he is. If you're watching on the live stream, you can see it. Tyrone Stansfield going through our picture on the live stream as well. Sam Dimolo's come to within 0.0 as Dave Burns is facing the wrong way out of Christmas hairpin. Bit of an issue there. A real shame that he hasn't got his fellow rookie Ben Hitch to play with in the season finale. But now the drivers who have not got out into the holding area for the beginning of qualifying in the Super Elites will not be allowed to start the session. So Sam Faulkner will have to start the race from, at best, 19th on the grid. Now that is astonishing for the champion in waiting. All he has to do, as we mentioned, is start the 3 races and he will be champion whatever happens. But he cannot afford a DNS. So in these conditions, that might not be a bad decision, being in 19th place on the grid anyway, because if he'd had a big accident and damaged the car, he may have risked a DNS. And off the circuit, a big one for Dan Walden, is going straight into the barriers and straight through the barriers. Once you get onto the grass at Crook, there is no way of slowing the car down, as Matt Ogle finds out as well and nearly goes into Will Checkley's abandoned kart. So it's still very slippery out there as drivers are trying to find a fast lap. Goodness gracious me. Well, unfortunately, Walden just disappearing straight through the tyre barrier, straight through the crash barrier. And Matt Ogle very nearly doing the same thing at turn 1. It's very slippery at the first corner indeed, and especially if you're on slicks rather than wets, it's treacherous as you like. So Richard Evans is currently fastest. There's Sam Dimolo, tucked up behind the 230 of Mark Lawrence. It looks to me as though the king of qualifying for 2018 in the Super Elites is going to remain Matthew Pearce, because Faulkner has 4 pole positions. Faulkner has 3 pole positions to Matthew Pearce's 4, and Richard Evans is currently pole position. But there are a couple of drivers who haven't started the qualifying session. In fact, it's not just Sam Faulkner. Michael Roots, who very nearly won back at Fullbeck, has not been able to get out for qualifying either. So those guys are going to have to start the race from the back of the grid. So far, so good for Richard Evans, although Tyrone Stansfield is now within 0.02 of a second of his pole position time. So this is going to get very interesting very quickly. My word, this is dramatic. Richard Evans in pole position for the moment from Tyrone Stansfield. Sam Dimolo is less than 1/10 of a second back from pole now as well. Oliver Moy is in 4th in front of Tom Massarella and Harry Barlow. Then it's Mark Lawrence, Dan Walden, Matthew Pearce, David Darling, Dave Burns, Neil Fisher, George Friday, Sean Ports, Jack Golding. Then it's Matt Ogle from Paul Ozan and Will Checkley. The latter 2 are more than 20 seconds off the pace of Richard Evans. And I think that's because they've gone off on their first laps out of the pits. A disaster for Will Checkley, but at least he's going to start ahead of Sam Faulkner and Michael Roots on the grid, because they haven't even gone out for qualifying, and now they're not allowed to. So Richard Evans will be starting from the front, and guaranteed now, his main rival in the championship, Sam Faulkner, is going to be starting from the back. Well, this spices up the championship fight a bit. Remember that Sam Faulkner can still win the championship even if he doesn't win the last 3 races. All he has to do is start them. He doesn't even have to finish them. He just has to start all 3 races. So he won't clinch the title until he crosses the line to start his 3rd race of the weekend. And he's got to start all 3 to take the title. So Stansfield has now gone under a minute. Stansfield's now gone under a minute. A 59.8. And now De Mello does a 59.8. 8 thousandths of a second quicker than Stansfield. Absolutely incredible. We're now dipping below a minute, but we're still getting drivers spinning off left, right, and centre. And that's both the wet and slick runners that are spinning, by the way. So nobody is really out of the doldrums yet. Matthew Pearce is doing as good a job as he can on the wets, but Stansfield is second fastest on the on the wet tyres. So, wet or dry, it's a big gamble. But everybody has obviously decided that they've got to make the best decision that suits their driving style, and not everybody has been able to benefit from it. A really interesting battle so far. Sam De Mello still pole position. Out of the final turn comes Tyrone Stansfield. Can he go faster than a 59.807? Not this time. So he's going to need to go around one more time, and he's only going to get one more time. So he needs to make this lap count. Sam De Mello pushing hard as well. He goes fastest again. 59.807 is the best time he has set. So let's see if there is going to be one final twist. Sam De Mello, last year's Super Masters champion before the Super Elites and Super Masters combined into one series, has yet to win in 2018, and this is his best chance yet, and he knows it, having barrel rolled rather dramatically last time out at Shenington. We all remember that from a month ago, and that's why he's in his vintage race suit and helmet, because the other race suit and helmet that he has been using all season are no longer fit for purpose, unfortunately. The checkered flag is out for the end of the session. Are there any major changes in the top 10? We need to find out, because David Darling is coming through in 10th place, and he gets one final lap, but it's not going to be fast enough. Here's Tyrone Stansfield. Is he pole position? No, not quite. Sam De Mello is going to come across the line now. Can he go further up the order? No, 59.807. He hasn't got a faster lap in. Oliver Moy is 3rd, though, in front of Richard Evans. He gets a personal best, Richard Evans, but it's not good enough to go above 3rd place. So, unless there's a major switch in the last couple of corners from the last few drivers, it's gonna be Sam De Mello who bags pole position for the last race weekend of the season, and he becomes only the 3rd driver all season in the Super Elites to get a pole position. Pearce has 4, Sam Faulkner has 3, but Sam De Mello bags pole position in the last qualifying session of the year. Absolutely fascinating. In the weather conditions, we have had a really strong qualifying session from each of the 3 categories. Ella Stevens on pole for the cadets, Toby Baldry on pole for the juniors, and now in Super Elite, it's Sam De Mello who gets the pole position as the cadets hang over the fence here at Whilton Mill to give a high five to the drivers as they come in. There's the result from the qualifying session. Sam De Mello in front of Tyrone Stansfield, Oliver Moy and Richard Evans, Tom Massarella and Harry Barlow from Dan Walden and Mark Lawrence, Matthew Pearce, David Darling, Dave Burns, Neil Fisher, Jack Golding and Sean Port. The other 4 who started the session are George Friday, Matt Ogle, Paul Ozan and Will Checkley. But the likes of Sam Faulkner and Michael Roots didn't even get out to set a lap, and now they'll have to start from the back of the grid. Love watching the cadets as they leap over they hang out over the line. This is the great camaraderie that we get in the paddock here. The cadets and the seniors all hang out together. You know, there's a great little moment there. That's Matt Ogle of Carlin giving a high five to the cadets. And of course, not a bad weekend this has been so far for Matt Ogle. 2 weeks before he flies out to Macau for the Macau Grand Prix. He is, of course, driver manager at the Carlin Motorsport team in Formula 3. Good luck to him at Macau next month. But by 8 thousandths of a second, Sam De Mello is pole position ahead of Tyrone Stansfield. Really exciting stuff from qualifying. The wet conditions really catching a few people out. But now we're going to go into the first race of the weekend. And this is going to be a really exciting battle for all of the drivers to cope with in these very changeable conditions. Wow. Great racing for the juniors. Unpredictable all the way. And that is exactly what we sign up for when we come racing in the birelART UK series. Interestingly though, there's a lot of different choices of tyres on offer down here in the pit lane. But so far, I'm not really seeing anybody make a dramatic switch from the wet tyres to the slicks, particularly on the front row of the starting grid. We still have Tyrone Stansfield on wets, as does the pole sitter, Sam Dimolo. But let's have a word with Sam for the very first time this season on pole position. That's a nice way to end the year, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a good start to the year. Oh, good start. Good end to the year, really. Pole's decent. I think we made the right choice. Well, we did make the right choice in the wets. So.
And of course, after the big act last time out at Shennington, there's been a lot of support, people rallying around to you to make sure that you're okay. And obviously there was a lot of concern, but other than a little bit of discomfort, you're still fit to race today.
Yeah, I've got a bruise on my shoulder, but other than that, I'm all right. So I was very lucky. It could have been a lot worse.
Well, chick stick scars anyway, so it's fine.
I've got loads of them from other stuff anyway. So.
Cheers, Sam. Thanks very much. So Sam Dimolo getting himself ready for the off. Two champions on the front row of the grid from 2017, of course. Tyrone Stansfield here, second position on the grid. Notice, of course, still wet tyres for the moment. Nobody at the front end of the grid really thinking that it's slick tyres yet. They will have been watching Dylan Brierley's race very closely in the juniors just then to see when to make the switch. Richard Evans going for the wet tyres. Harry Barlow beside him on that side of the grid, also going for the wet tyre option. It's a similar story over here. Oliver Moy starting right up in third position on the grid. Oliver, your best qualifying performance of the year, and P3, did you think you were going to get that when you woke up this morning?
Not exactly. I guess I like this track, and in the wet, I really feel comfortable. So, yeah, it's a good start. Hopefully, we can push ahead.
Now, you're in the same camp this year as the likes of Tyrone, Harry and Tom, who've made their way up from the juniors to the seniors. The transition, there's obviously a lot more power, so to get third position in tricky conditions like this, you must be buzzing at the moment.
Yeah, you could say that, but I got to keep my head down, keep focused, and go for the win.
Good job so far, Ollie. Keep it up. So Oliver Moy in third position at this point. Richard Evans heading to the kart. I'm not sure we're going to get a word with him. I don't want to get into, I don't want to get under his skin at this point, because there are a few drivers who have decided to go a different way, and that's the biggest story at the moment. David Darling has seen Dylan Brierley and gone, you know what, did all right, we're going for slicks. George Friday is doing the same thing if you look down the grid, and so too is the 277, Paul Ozan. Paul, you did some very fast times in practice yesterday. You've seen Dylan out there. You think it's right for slicks?
I think it probably was, but it's just starting to spot a bit now, so who knows, we'll see.
It's one of those really difficult situations where I guess when you're in a position like this after a difficult qualifying, you've just got to roll the dice.
Absolutely. It's so difficult to know if you're doing right or wrong. I think me starting so far back, I think a gamble may pay off. We'll see.
Well, hopefully there's a couple of aces up your sleeve. Good luck, Paul.
Thank you.
So this is going to be such an interesting race. That's three I know of now that are on slick tyres. Looks to me as though the 160, Ben Hitch, has gone for the slick tyres as well, as too has Jason Bradbury. I'm going to quickly grab a nice word in there with Jason. Jason, what's the thinking? Is it due to which position you're starting the race from, or do you genuinely think slicks is the way to go?
I guess it's a bit of a gamble. We didn't get out in qualifying, so I think it's worth the gamble. If rain comes down, it was the wrong choice, but I have to wait and see.
And it's Whilton Mill as well. It gets greasy at the best of times, so you're never really sure what you're in for.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be fun for the first 5 laps, but if the rain don't come down, maybe it will switch over. We'll see.
Okay, thanks, Jason. Good luck. I do love senior karting. They all talk about the cadets and the juniors, but these guys are the real warriors and the gladiators of the sport. They've all gone for a different route. Let's have a quick word in there with Matt Ogle, who's decided to play safe and gone for the wet tyres. It's very tricky out there. What was it like during qualifying?
Well, I was on slick, so pretty hard. Yeah, that was the wrong choice, so I've played it safe this time, like you say.
I guess on a circuit like this, when you've got so many different factors, the fact that rubber's already gone down in the dry yesterday, the painted lines on the straight are a little bit higher than they normally would be, with the rain having already come down, I guess playing it safe might just be the more conservative option.
Yeah, the guys on slicks are going to be fine on the dry line, but if they want to overtake people, they've got to go offline, which is damp. So, in my opinion, for this shorter race, wets is the way forward. But I'm looking forward to seeing what the guys on slicks do.
I have just felt a drop of rain on my nose, so you could be right, Matt. Thank you.
I hope it carries on.
I'm sure there's a good 14 or 15 or so drivers who are hoping it carries on as well. And I have a feeling they may be rewarded because the conditions are very changeable, as we know. And obviously here at Whilton Mill, if it's going to rain hard. So they need to make sure that they've obviously got themselves well looked after in that setup. But some great performances from qualifying that definitely need to be given some credence. I found the race winner, though, from the juniors, Nikki Taylor. You're making a habit of this now. I spoke to you at the beginning of Shennington. You were still chasing that first win. Now you've won a heat, a pre-final and a final.
Yeah, I mean, it was just at the start, we got a kind of a bad start on the right-hand side with Toby going quicker than our right-hand side. So we were a bit jumped, but then after that, I got my head down. I just tried to catch up to Toby. I did that and then just maintained the pace, not making any silly mistakes, not pushing too hard to spin, and just maintained the lead.
Well, here's an interesting scenario for you now. Callum Gunning won the very first 5 races of the season in the row. There's a chance now you could win the last 5 races in a row.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, if we can get more wins, that's superb. And I mean, it bodes well going into the DRS series next year. But I mean, if we can get the wins, then it is. But we just got to see how it goes. Because I mean, a lot of people are going to be quick now. A lot of people are just going to be better, and we've got to just rise above it.
Great job, Nikki. Great win. There's the whistle for the elites to start the engines up. Some of them are on slicks, many more are on wets. Whoever is right is going to look like a genius as they head out on track. So the drivers now warming up the tyres and brakes. Very tricky in these conditions with the moisture still very evident on the circuit as they try and get themselves up to temperature. This is going to be such a knife edge of a race in the Super Elites heat. The last ever heat in red and white. Sam Dimolo and Tyrone Stansfield on the front row of the starting grid. Oliver Moy, his best ever qualifying performance in Elites, in 3rd position. Alongside him on the grid, Richard Evans, 4th on the starting grid. Then, of course, Tom Massarella, having done a great job alongside Harry Barlow. Dan Walden and then Mark Lawrence on the 4th row of the starting grid. Matthew Pearce, the qualifying king from 2018, only 9th on the starting grid, alongside David Darling, 10th position on the starting grid. Then Neil Fisher, along with Jack Golding. And then on the 7th row of the starting grid, it is Sean Port and George Friday. Looks as though we've got a problem for Jack Golding. Jack Golding is trying to get the kart up to speed and hasn't quite been able to make it work. The drivers are going to go round again because, of course, they have 2 rolling laps. Matt Ogle and Paul Ozan on the 8th row of the grid from Will Checkley and Sam Faulkner, who set no time during qualifying, of course. Then it is Ben Hitch, who lines up beside Jason Bradbury. They set no time either. Basically, anybody after 18th place failed to set a lap time in qualifying at all. Elliot Stanley and Ben Yeomans are there together on the 11th row of the starting grid. And then, of course, we have further back Michael Roots and Matthew Keeley, who are together on the 23rd and 24th spots on the starting grid. And then right at the back, it is the 25th man in, Dave Burns. But problems for Jack Golding already. Mechanical problems. Hopefully he can get himself back into position again. But the kart has stopped out on the circuit up at Oblivion. So unfortunately, Jack Golding's kart has come to a stop on the edge of Oblivion. You can just see it in the back of your picture. Jack Golding trying to get the kart push started and back into the race up at the first corner, or up at turn 2 now, I guess. He's trying to push start the kart in the hope that he can get it going again, but he's going to be in a very dangerous position on the outside of Crook as the field gets up to speed. There he is. You can see him there. He's trying to get the kart going again, but at the moment, that is a potential race delay. Because obviously, with a kart off at the first corner, you can't have 24 karts banzaiing into turn 1 flat on the throttle, heading up towards Jack Golding. So I think we're going to get a delayed start here. This is going to be a really difficult situation for the drivers to contend with. It looks like Jack Golding has got the engine started, but it's almost as if the kart won't move. So something's not going wrong. They're going to have to go round again. And that's because Jack Golding's kart is basically stuck out on the circuit at turn 1. There's nothing they can do about it. And Jack Golding leaps over the fence, very, very fed up indeed. It's not the return to the championship he wanted, but the field will go around again for another formation lap with so much at stake. They watch this series from all over the world. Ellie Chapman, we're all with you from Australia, George Friday. You never know, in these conditions, this could be exactly what the doctor ordered. He starts this race from the front half of the grid, of course, and with very tricky conditions ahead of us, it could be absolutely perfect. But they do watch this championship all over the world. On all 6 continents, they flock to their screens to keep an eye on what's happening. And next year, I think there's going to be even more with the Daniel Ricciardo Series name coming on board. But for Jack Golding, it's a bitter, bitter disappointment. That is not the return to the championship he wanted, and he deserves much better than that. But unfortunately, motor racing is very tough, and mechanically, things will let you down. At least there's still a grin from Jack, but it's not the race he wanted at all. Hopefully he can be back to his best again at the pre-final. But now it's time to get underway. Sam Dimolo from Tyrone Stansfield. Oliver Moy from Richard Evans. Harry Barlow beside Mark Lawrence and Tom Massaralla in there as well. With Dan Walden on the 4th row, Matthew Pearce on row 5. Here we go. Are we going to get the start this time? Yes, we do, and it's an amazing start from Sam Dimolo. He breaks clear into the lead, no problem at all, as the field charges through Oblivion and into Crook, up towards Fine Lady. And as they go past Manuel's Bank, they are charging up to Christmas. No problem for Dimolo, who leads the way. Moy into 3rd, Massaralla through to 4th initially. Now Dan Walden cracks it into P4, and a spin from David Darling at Christmas. So they spin around, but it's Dimolo up front, Stansfield in 2nd, then it's Moy, Walden, Massaralla side by side with Richard Evans, and it looks to me as though we've got another hard charger coming through in the shape of Harry Barlow, with Neil Fisher right in behind Mark Lawrence, and Matthew Pearce makes a move at the inside of Lawrence to dive in at Ozier's. Where is Sam Faulkner? He is in there as well, tucked up behind Paul Ozan and Sean Port. So very close at the front end of the field between Dimolo and Stansfield. Up the inside, Barlow's going to try and make the run on Massaralla, is he? Hasn't been able to get the place made. Great racing in Super Elites. This is senior karting at its finest. Half the field on slicks, half the field on wets. And at the moment, Dimolo and Stansfield are pulling out a gap as Dan Walden is up to 3rd, past Oliver Moy, and that was Harry Barlow trying to get his way past Tom Massaralla. Up to the hairpin. Walden in 3rd place in front of Moy. Then it's Evans, Massaralla, Barlow, Neil Fisher, Matthew Pearce. A cracking little battle going on in the midfield as Mark Lawrence is in the mix there as well. Massaralla is going to be overtaken by first Barlow, then Neil Fisher, then Matthew Pearce, and potentially Mark Lawrence as well, as he goes up the inside of Massaralla to take the place there side by side. And Sam Faulkner's going to get the move on Mark Lawrence instead, and gets the move on Massaralla as well. Sam Faulkner on the race to clinch the championship. He can't do it until race 3, but Faulkner is having an amazing run. So again, they continue to battle as Dave Burns has a crack at Sean Port. A really intensive battle. They continue to race up at the front end. That is Harry Barlow in there, racing now in 5th position, with Neil Fisher up the inside of Oliver Moy. Gets the place, and on the exit, Matthew Pearce gets through, and so too does Sam Faulkner around the outside. He's going to go all the way around the outside of Parker, outbreak him around the outside for Ozier's, and grab the place over the curbs. Faulkner chops across on Barlow, and Harry Barlow is not impressed, because that's opened the floodgates. Paul Ozan goes through now. So Dimolo leads Stansfield up at the front end of the field. Stansfield dropping back to 2.7 back. Has Stansfield pushed those tyres to their limit? Because now he's just dropping off like a stone at the moment. Sam Dimolo out in front. 2nd place Stansfield, 3rd place Walden. Then it is Richard Evans, Matthew Pearce, Massaralla, and then Ozan and Sam Faulkner. A terrific race this is turning into. Sorry, that's Neil Fisher in there. Paul Ozan's charging through on slicks. Ozan's got the fastest tyre. He's got the slicks, and he's pushing on. Ozan is going through the field like a cat out of a bag right now. Charging around the outside as Pearce gets on the inside of Evans. Gets the place. Watch for Paul Ozan, though. The slick tyres are working. Up on the inside, he gets Evans. That's P5. There might be enough time to get a victory out of this. He's still pushing like crazy. Stansfield second, but watch for Ozan. He's going to try and get a move on Pierce, but Pierce is battling hard with Dan Walden. Ozan's got to try and commit to this now, otherwise there's no chance to win it. Here he goes. He goes past both of them. Does he know he has to stop back in as Pierce gets Walden? Oh, terrific racing between these three, but Paul Ozan on the 277 has slicks, while everyone else in the top four is on wets. Pierce hunts wide, and through into fourth goes Ozan past Dan Walden. Ozan is charging through on slicks, as will everybody else on slick tyres be, but Ozan's making the best use of it. Here he goes again on Matthew Pierce. Pierce is going to be a sitting target. There's nothing he can do. Ozan sweeps by into B3. So now Ozan is third. Can he make second before the end of this race? 3 minutes 45 on the clock, plus the additional lap. The way Ozan is going, I think he could do it. Fastest lap of the race so far comes from Jason Bradbury. He's also on slick tyres and has done a 49.7. Where is Jason? He's in 8th place. So the slick tyres are the ones to be on. Here comes Sam Dimolo, still leading the way up towards Parker. Stansfield has dropped 4.5 seconds back. Ozan is in third, chasing him down. Bradbury's going through the field like stink as well. He's got past Fisher and past Richard Evans and Harry Barlow. Evans has slipped to 10th, Barlow slipped to 11th. Oliver Moy, rather sadly, has dropped all the way back to 14th. A very difficult race for him. But here comes Ozan, all over the back of Stansfield. He's going to get the run off the boot. Nicely done. Into second place goes Ozan. And now he's charging after Sam Dimolo. Can Paul Ozan catch Sam Dimolo? He's got to make up 6 seconds. That seems almost impossible. But if anyone can, Ozan can. Up through Christmas. Charging up to Inkermans through the right-hand flick. Paul Ozan is a man on a mission. How quick can he go compared to Sam Dimolo? Dimolo's best is a 49.9. Ozan's best is a 50.0. But the slick-tired runners are definitely going faster. Sam Dimolo on wets, somehow able to extract grip from the cart. Sam Dimolo isn't a Supermasters champion for nothing. He's somehow running the Schumacher-style race of keeping the cart fast while still on wets. Dimolo leads with 2 minutes to go. How quickly is Ozan catching him? The answer is ridiculously so. He's taken 6/10 out of him in 1 lap, but that's not enough. Faulkner's coming through as well. He's in there behind Stansfield, who's dropped back behind Pierce, behind... Who's that in 4th? That's George Friday! That is Friday up in 4th! Bradbury now goes for Faulkner. Faulkner takes him back again on the undercut. But George Friday is up in P4, right in behind Matthew Pierce. I think we're going to get 2 stick shot runners on the podium as Sam Faulkner now makes his bid on Stansfield and gets through. So the champion in waiting is pushing on, and with his main rival Richard Evans now behind him in 11th, it looks good for Faulkner. But Dimolo wants to win. Bradbury dives up the inside of Stansfield and gets the place. Fisher tries as well. Dimolo over the line. Where's Ozan? There he is. He's made up 2 seconds in 1 lap. Paul Ozan is absolutely rocketing after Dimolo. He's running out of time though. Surely he can't get there. George Friday though can get third on Matthew Pierce. Up Manuel's Bank into Christmas, and he's through as Bradbury tries to make the same move on Faulkner. But George Friday is through to third. Brilliant. The Aussie contingent will be dancing for joy as he comes through in 3rd position at the moment, breaking into the left-hander at Parker and disappearing from the fray. Bye-bye, boys. But out in front, Dimolo's lead is being slashed by Paul Ozan at the rate of 2 seconds a lap. He might just be able to hang on, but there's going to be 2 laps to go, not 1. Here comes Ozan over the line. He's taken another 1.6 out in the last lap alone. The gap is down to 2.2. Can Paul Ozan get there? Bradbury is all over the back of Sam Faulkner, trying to get into 5th position. Now he's going to get the run off the turn, and Bradbury sails past Faulkner up towards Christmas. Paul Ozan still charging after Dimolo. He can see how quickly he's catching him. I can get him, I can get him! Into Parker, down the hill, into Oziers. Sam Dimolo, last year's Masters champion, hanging on in front of Paul Ozan with Ozan Juniors at the side of the circuit. His daughter and son will be bouncing up and down with joy. Come on, Daddy, you can do it. Paul Ozan charging hard as they go into the last lap. He's right on the back of Di Mello. He's going to try into turn one. He'll get the switch. Ozan is through. Ozan is through on the last lap. Amazing. Paul Ozan has come from halfway down the back of the field to take the lead on the last lap. Slicks were the right way to go after all. And Paul Ozan has done the unthinkable. Di Mello's just got to hang on now for second place as George Friday closes up as well. Friday's not going to quite get into second place, but Paul Ozan has done an amazing job. He charges through into the boot for the last time, and Paul Ozan out of the final turn takes his first win of the season. What a race, what a drive from Paul Ozan. Di Mello in second and George Friday a fantastic third. Well, it turns out anyone on slicks was a rotten, stinking genius. Absolutely terrific. Matthew Pearce through to fourth, ahead of Sam Faulkner and Neil Fisher. Tyrone Stansfield comes through. What's happened to Jason Bradbury? Bradbury's had a really slow final lap and has dropped all the way down the order. Disaster for Bradbury, but Ozan wins from Di Mello. Incredible. Ozan had the same lead on Di Mello that Di Mello had on him 2 laps ago. What a race. Leading rookie home, Ben Hitch in 10th, behind Michael Roots, who charged through to 9th, behind Dan Walden. Great race from Michael Roots as well. Let's have a look at some of the best bits of that race. Absolutely fantastic racing here in the Super Elites. It was always going to be difficult. What should we start on, slicks or wets? But anybody who went for slicks eventually was proven correct. The start of that race, it was a completely different order. Paul Ozan starting to make the moves. The second he got past Faulkner, that was really the catalyst to make himself charge his way through. He found the confidence in the car and just picked them off one by one. Really good racing from Paul Ozan. But the thing is, he was not only very wily with his racecraft, he was patient. He didn't do things by halves, but he didn't get stuck in more than he needed to. He bid his time. He waited for the gaps to open up. He was so smart with the way he picked them off one by one. His move on Stansfield calculated to perfection out of the boot. But the way he then charged after Di Mello, that was a 6-second gap when he passed Stansfield, and he ended up being 2 seconds clear by the flag. Unfortunate finish for Bradbury. He went on the slicks as well, and that proved to be the right move, but he just didn't get the same luck as those around him. And a very big credit as well to George Friday, 3rd position, his best result of the season. But Jason Bradbury working hard on the slick tyres there as well. But this move, that was the one that got it done. Ozan making good use of the dry line. Di Mello aware, there's no point. He shook his head. I can't beat him. Paul Ozan, brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. So we now go into our lunch break. After lunch, we will, of course, be back on schedule, which is good news. Paul Ozan taking the victory from Sam Di Mello and George Friday. Matthew Pearce and Sam Faulkner. Neil Fisher and Tyrone Stansfield from Dan Walden. Michael Roots, Ben Hitch, Richard Evans, Ben Yeomans, Oliver Moy and Harry Barlow. Then Jason Bradbury, Matt Ogle, Mark Lawrence, Tom Massarella. Then it is Dave Burns and Elliot Stanley. Sean Port and David Darling from Matthew Keeley. But incredibly, everybody who started the race ended up finishing it. So we're going to take our regular pause in proceedings, and when we come back, the championships will conclude for the last time ever in the birelART UK series. Don't go too far away. So now the race is upon us once again for the pre-final in the birelART Super Elites. And for Sam Di Mello, another chance to crack the top spot of the podium. So close in race 1. Paul Ozan catching him out on strategy and just pipping him to the post. But now everybody's going to be on wet tyres. There's no question now. I would go down on the pit straight to talk to them, but in these conditions, without an umbrella, would you? Matthew Pearce in fourth position on the starting grid. He is going to be one to watch in this race because obviously there's still a lot to do. Paul Ozan, what a victory from last time though. What a charge through, well deserved. Now he's going to have to cope with pole position on the wet tyres in a very different situation. But everyone's going to remember that heat victory for a long time, that's for sure. George Friday prepares for battle from third on the grid. Everyone in Australia is bouncing up and down for joy. Third position in that previous heat. And what a drive it was too. Slick tyres, genius. There's plenty of great action to come. I'm just trying as well, while I can, to go through the result of the previous race for the juniors and try and figure out where all the points play out. I think I'm gonna have to wait for that and do it in a moment or two. But fascinating stuff. Absolutely brilliant racing. And now the title fight for the juniors would be separated by just 5 points. In the Super Elites, it's not quite done yet for Sam Faulkner. All he has to do is start the next 2 races and the job is done. It doesn't matter where he finishes. It doesn't even matter whether he finishes or not. He can retire from the race once he has started it and the title can be won. But a DNS, and all of a sudden, Richard Evans has a chance to steal it. But I think everybody is realistically understanding of the fact that it's pretty much Sam Faulkner's title to lose now. The big battle is for second between Richard Evans and Sam Dimolo. And with Dimolo outscoring Evans in the first race, there's every chance that this pendulum for second could swing. So there's a very tough battle ahead of us, but then there's no question on which tyre to be on now. It's wet, wet, wet. So everybody now getting themselves ready for the last 2 races of the Super Elite season. Harry Barlow, well motivated, pushing for the battle for the final race weekend of the season, as the drivers are getting themselves ready for action. There's Jason Bradbury, one of the many who ended up going for slick tyres, and it was exactly the right call. Unfortunately, the last lap, everything got away from him for one reason or another. A very tricky end to the race for Jason Bradbury. He deserved a lot more than he got from that race. There's Matt Ogle in the Carlin colours, of course. 2 weeks from now, he'll be flying to a very different tough race, the Macau Grand Prix. There's Tom Massarella getting himself ready. I'm never away from him these days. Only a couple of weeks ago, he was down at Butmore racing in F100, and here he is again in the birelART series. The last time ever he'll be racing in those colours, of course, before we go blue and white next year for the Daniel Ricciardo series. There's Elliot Stanley. Missed out on qualifying. Didn't do a lot of practice yesterday, I don't think, either. But in these conditions, he didn't really need to. As all of the drivers now getting themselves ready for a really exciting battle for the end of the season. Now, there's Jack Golding. He's had all sorts of difficulties. Didn't even get to take the start of the previous race because the kart let him down and basically coughed to a spluttering stop on the formation lap. So hopefully they have managed to get that one sorted and he will be able to go out and get the job done in this race. And there's Sean Port, the nutmeg colours once again. And that's going to be a very strange sight, seeing Sean Port racing in different colours. I've got so used to him racing those in 2018, of course. For the new season, everybody's got to run the same kit of graphics, which will be in the Ricciardo kart colours. They can race their own personalised suits and helmets, of course, and that's going to be the only way I'll be able to identify them next time. There's Dave Burns getting himself ready for more action and more drama. There's going to be plenty of it. And there's Mark Lawrence, the most experienced driver in the birelART UK Series paddock. He's been here since day one. And how many meetings has he missed in that time? Just one. Absolutely incredible. And he'll go into the new era with plenty of opportunities for great racing in front. There's Oliver Moy, who's having, certainly in terms of lap pace, the best weekend of his season. Third in qualifying earlier. Difficult race, ending up on the wrong set of tyres in the end. But several drivers were caught out for exactly the same reason. Richard Evans just finishing off race prep. There's Michael Roots, who on paper you could say is probably the man closest to beating Sam Faulkner in a straight fight up until the last race, because he had a brilliant chance to run away and hide at fullback, and it got taken away from him in the last lap with a few choice manoeuvres. There's Tyrone Stansfield. But the 2017 junior champion was not the man to beat Sam Faulkner in a straight fight for the first time. That duty fell to Paul Ozan, with Sam Faulkner finally losing a race. I think everybody's finally relieved about it as well, because he had managed to win 18 races out of 18 that he had started up until this point. But now Sam Faulkner finds himself having to play catch-up for once. But there is the man on pole, Paul Ozan. A perfect performance in race 1. Absolutely dominated proceedings in the end, having fought his way from a long way back to catch that man, Sam Dimolo. Sam Dimolo disagrees with me. Well, when you're on one set of tyres compared to the other, his lap times were definitely much stronger. But in the wet, it's a different story. And this time, Dimolo has a chance to turn the tables. And almost certainly, he's going to get that chance. The green flag will fly. Megan waves it at the edge of the pit lane. And it's time to find out who's the rainmaster at Whilton Mill in the birelART UK Series. So here we go again. The grid for this one, a reflection of the result of the previous race. But oh boy, it's going to be tough to win this one. Sam Faulkner finally vanquished in a race in 2018 that he has actually started. Paul Ozan on pole position from Sam Dimolo. George Friday and Matthew Pearce are next up. Then it is Sam Faulkner in 5th on the grid along with Neil Fisher. The rain is coming down hard here. Sam Faulkner has left the pits, but he's left it after everybody else. So that is interesting. He's going to have to chase up to the field to get himself back into his grid slot. So for a horrible moment there, I wondered if Sam Faulkner was not going to be able to start the race, because he needs to start every single race to win the championship. He doesn't have to finish it, but he does have to win it. It's not mathematically possible for him to lose the championship if he starts every race. So this is going to be a really exciting end to the season for all of them. But the rain is coming down very hard and fast now here at Whilton Mill. And we're going to have splashes and spray around the circuit through this penultimate race of the season. As in the pits, Jack Golding is struggling to get out yet again. So this time he hasn't even been able to get out onto the grid. But Jack Golding is struggling to get the kart started. They're going around for 2 formation laps, so he may still get a chance. Come on, guys. Come on, Jack. Well, he's getting out of the kart. This is so heartbreaking. Yet again, out of luck. As the 24 drivers that remain, it's now 23, of course, because Will Checkley has not taken up the start of this one, or the previous one. I guess he's had too much damage from the previous race. Is Will Checkley on the grid? I don't think so. Can't see him there. So no, he's not going to compete in this one either. I am assuming there was too much damage from his spin in qualifying, but for Jack Golding, yet again, it's game over. That's such cruel luck. He was so fast in the practice sessions yesterday. He looked like he could be a contender for race victories this weekend, but it's all to no avail. It looks like they're going to go round yet again. So I think a 3rd formation lap is in order. I'm not sure why, actually. I think they're just not really in grid formation yet. But in the wet conditions, I think a 3rd formation lap is probably a good thing. Good luck to Sam and Tyrone. Was meant to be up there, but daddy duties came into play, says Joe Patterson. A likely story. We miss you, Joe. You've got to get yourself in blue and white for next year, mate. We need the best of the best, and you're one of them. Make sure you're on the grid next year if you can. Absolutely fantastic battle ahead of us in this Super Elites pre-final. Plenty of drivers who are going to be putting on a good show as the fans give their support. Tina Mystery watching from Heathrow. Come on, Jason Bradbury. This is going to be a tough race for everybody, but in the wet conditions, everybody is at the same disadvantage. So let's see how the race is going to play out. So Sam Faulkner's dominant run has come to a stop, but he now has to start the race, I believe, from the back of the grid. So he's not going to be allowed to take up his position on the grid in 5th. So Sam Faulkner will just have to go off the back of the grid again. He doesn't have to sweat, he just has to start each race. He doesn't have to finish any of them. He just has to start them, because if you start the race, you're eligible for points. But if you don't start, you're not. So he needs to make sure he scores points in all 3 races. And to do that, he has to start. So mission accomplished thus far for Sam Faulkner. And And out of the final hairpin, the drivers will get themselves up to speed. Paul Ozan and Sam Dimolo just keeping the field in check. George Friday and Matthew Pearce in there. Tyrone Stansfield and Dan Walden. Michael Roots is definitely a contender for the victory in this one. Keep an eye on him. Here we go. The engine revs rise and we're racing. Now it's a good start from Paul Ozan. Friday breaks through in a second. And Stansfield tries to come through into third. Not able to do so. Michael Roots has had an amazing start. And through comes George Friday. Friday blasts through into the lead past Paul Ozan. What a start from Friday. And up to third comes Roots. Is it going to be second? It might even be first. Roots is into second past Ozan, but George Friday leads it. A spin from Sam Dimolo. He's at the back of the field. There he is. Sam Dimolo dead last. And now Roots is through to the lead past Friday. So Roots now takes the lead. There's Dimolo at the back, but Roots is your leader. Friday in second place. And third, I think, is still Paul Ozan. Up to fourth comes Matthew Pearce with Richard Evans and Sam Faulkner. Sam Faulkner has charged through to sixth position. Unbelievable. Now Faulkner is going to have a bit of a run for third position as Ozan's gone wide. Pearce has got him, so has Faulkner. And Evans through on Pearce now as well. Faulkner is third after one lap. I don't believe it. Absolutely terrific. So now the wet weather race is on in earnest as Roots leads Friday, Faulkner, Pearce and Evans. Ozan is currently in P6. But charging his way through from the back is Sam Dimolo. He's making up places as fast as he can. Trying to make up a place or two on this lap. He's already got 2 or 3 of them. And he's now going to try and make up a few more as Faulkner runs ahead of Pearce, Evans, the 160 of Hitch. And then it's Oliver Moy. Where's Paul Ozan? Well, he's in there in P7 now because Hitch has come through to 6th place behind Evans. So Ozan is 7th. Then it's Harry Barlow, Oliver Moy. Then Dan Walden from Elliot Stanley, Ben Yeomans, Massarella, Ogle and Jason Bradbury. Then it is Sean Port ahead of Sam Dimolo and Tyrone Stansfield, who have both dropped back a long, long way together. Sam Faulkner's got past George Friday already. Up into 2nd place comes Sam Faulkner. Determined not to be beaten again. So Sam Faulkner in 2nd place. What a drive this is from the potential champion. All he's got to do is keep going. That's Dave Burns. He rejoins, having gone off at the boot. But Roots is in 1st position. Sam Faulkner in 2nd place. But I'm fairly sure that a top 3 finish in this race would actually seal the championship for Sam Faulkner. He wouldn't even have to compete in the last one. So now he's just got to keep on pushing in 2nd place. If he can catch Roots and beat him, he will clinch the title. Mathematically, it then will not be done. It will not be doable by Evans. It's going to be a hard charge after this point onwards. But there goes Michael Roots. Sam Faulkner in 2nd place, still trying to catch him. And there's an off further back. I think that is Matthew Keeley going wide. He gets back on the circuit relatively. Oh no, sorry, that's not Matthew Keeley. That is that Mark Lawrence going off? And then rejoining. Problems for Dan Walden. It was the 285 going off, in fact, of David Darling who went off. But Dan Walden's got problems with the cart as Elliot Stanley is charging his way up the inside to make a place at the Christmas corner hairpin. Sam Dimolo battling with Jason Bradbury and a spin. Now, who was that? I think that was Elliot Stanley, actually. Having made the places, he then braked himself into the hairpin. So the driver's still battling away. Michael Roots being chased by Sam Faulkner. 3 seconds is the gap. George Friday still 3rd from Pearce, Evans, Hitch, Harry Barlow. Then it is Oliver Moy, Yeomans, Massarella. Up the inside comes Dimolo. But round the outside of them both goes Jason Bradbury. Bradbury gets past Dimolo and Ozan. So the race 1 winner, Ozan, now finds himself struggling down in, well, what is that? Paul Ozan a long way back now, unfortunately. Really struggling on this lap. But Faulkner is chipping away at Michael. Oh, that is the... Now, who's that out of the race? Unfortunately, that looks to me like the 221 has gone off there at the top of the hill. Oh, that might be Matthew Keeley, actually, who's gone off there and is out of the race. That is a real shame. But yellow flags as off at the I couldn't actually see the third digit, but I'm guessing that is Matthew Keeley who has gone off. And that would be a real shame if he cannot continue. Dave Burns is out of the race by the look of it as well. I think he's decided he's had enough. There's Ben Yeomans. There's Massarella in front of Bradbury and Dimolo. Dimolo trying to come through. Not going to get the move done just yet. Roots is still very much in position in the lead of the race, but Faulkner is catching him. The torrential downpour going well, but Matthew Pearce is now catching George Friday for third. Fifth is Evans, sixth is Hitch, and seventh is Harry Barlow. Then it is Moy in front of Yeomans and Massarella. Dimolo, Bradbury. Still they charge forward. Sean Port now in front of Paul Ozan and Matt Ogle. Then it's Stanley, Stansfield. A big movement from Lawrence as he gets up the inside of Stansfield for the place. And then David Darling from Walden. And yes, it was Matthew Keeley. Unfortunately, he went off at Christmas hairpin. He's out of the race and he's now watching up at Marshall Post D. But Roots is still hanging on in front of Sam Faulkner, and he would really dearly love a victory in this last weekend of the season. But I think with Evans down in fifth and Faulkner in second, even that would be enough for Sam Faulkner to clinch the title in this penultimate race of the year. Because he missed the round at Whilton earlier in the season, Faulkner had to start all three races. But a good result in the podium positions in this second race will be enough to make Sam Faulkner the champion. So Roots leads it, Faulkner second. Friday, there he is in third position ahead of Matthew Pearce. Then Evans, Hitch, Barlow, Moy, Yeomans, Massarella, Demolo, Bradbury and Port, who's having a good run here actually. That's Stanley and Stansfield battling away together. Paul Ozan behind them. He's really struggling in the wet, Paul Ozan. He was great in the drying conditions and he's very fast here on slicks. But in the wet, he just doesn't seem to have any grip at all. So Roots continues on in the lead in front of Sam Faulkner, who's still pushing very hard, and Faulkner is getting that gap down steadily. There it is, Roots versus Faulkner. A second place finish would be enough for Sam Faulkner to win the title behind Michael Roots. The gap is down to a second and a half now between these two. Faulkner's finally turning on the dial. He wants to win. There goes Matthew Pearce in behind the second place man, George Friday. Pearce might get a run out of oblivion here to go for the move. Up towards Christmas they come for third position. Friday still hanging on in front of Matthew Pearce for now. There's about 10 seconds between these guys in position, but Michael Roots still leads the race in front of this man, Sam Faulkner, who's just 2 minutes and 20 seconds or so, plus the additional lap away from clinching the 2018 birelART UK Series Super Elites Championship, as he did last year, as he won the title as a junior in 2015, as he won a title as a cadet. He's come through as a youngster and is now one of the leading figures in this championship paddock. Just a little under 2 minutes to go, plus the additional bonus lap. And the wet weather conditions really separating the men from the boys in this category. Roots is leading, checks over his shoulder. Faulkner's there, but not close enough yet. So Roots has got to keep pushing. He's got to keep piling on the pressure. Faulkner is right there in second place. Then it's Friday and Pearce, Evans and Barlow, Hitch, Moy, Yeomans and Dimolo. Well, Dimolo now in front of Yeomans, in fact. So Dimolo now up to 9th place. But this race is definitely not won. In the soaking wet at Whilton Mill, it is going to be Sam Faulkner, we think, who's going to seal the title with a second place finish. Mathematically, that will be enough, even if he decides not to start the last race. But I know Sam Faulkner. I'm sure he'll take up the challenge of starting the last race anyway. But Sam Faulkner, in behind Michael Roots, is going to lift the title if he stays where he is. 2 laps to go. As now Michael Roots continues on his way with Sam Faulkner just 0.7 of a second behind him. And with the lap times they're setting at over a minute, they're only going to have time for this lap and one more, but Faulkner is definitely catching Michael Roots. George Friday continues to hold off Matthew Pearce for third though. So George Friday putting off a great show. But Sam Faulkner is now on the penultimate lap. He knows that he wants to beat Roots. A victory will guarantee the title. So he wants to get the job done. Evans has still got Harry Barlow to deal with. If he drops behind Barlow, then there really is no way back. And Barlow is going to try on the inside of Evans and gets him up at Inkermans. So Barlow is through to P5. Barlow is now 5th in front of Richard Evans. As Faulkner goes for the lead, a big lunge on Roots. Up on the inside, Roots is going to carry the speed round the outside. They're going to bang wheels. Faulkner dives for the inside. Roots round the outside, but Faulkner leads it. Faulkner takes the lead with 1 lap to go. They both power into oblivion and Crook sideways on the lock stops. But Sam Faulkner has taken the lead into the last lap of the pre-final. Roots is going to go the long way round at Christmas. They're going to bang wheels again. Faulkner is going to get this though, surely. Roots is going to try a few more tricks to try and beat Faulkner, who now hugs the inside line. The outside line is faster in the wet. Roots is going to try and squeeze him out the outside. Faulkner goes with him, holds the lead. Through Parker. Can Roots get the switch back to the inside? Yes, he can. They bang wheels again, and this time Roots is going to squeeze Faulkner. Roots takes the lead back. Faulkner's going to try again. Into the boot. Faulkner tries to squeeze Roots. Roots protects the inside line. Faulkner's going to have to squeeze back for the switchback. He's got him. Faulkner's got him in the final turns. Faulkner grabs the victory in the final turn. And Sam Faulkner is the birelART SuperElites champion of 2018. What a finish for Sam Faulkner. Brilliant. His 19th win of 2018. And that's enough to make him the birelART champion. George Friday hangs on for 3rd in front of Matthew Pearce. 5th place for Harry Barlow, beats Richard Evans over the line. And that really is it, done and dusted now. A fantastic effort all season from Richard Evans. He fought tooth and nail, but a 6th place finish on 120 compared to Faulkner on a 130 with just 1 race to go. Sam Faulkner is the birelART British champion at SuperElites in the last race weekend of the season. And in the last pre-final of the year, he charges back from the back of the grid in an even more audacious fashion than he did at Fullbeck. What a performance, what a result, and what a champion again. Wow, Sam Faulkner has done the business today. Michael Roots in 2nd, George Friday 3rd, Matthew Pearce in 4th, Harry Barlow in 5th from Richard Evans, Ben Hitch is 7th from Sam Dimolo, Oliver Moy and Tom Massaralla. The leading Grand Master home, I do believe, is going to be Mark Lawrence ahead of Sean Port, just in behind Ben Yeomans and Jason Bradbury. And that means that with the title settled in SuperElites now, they can have just 1 more rain dance in the last race of the season. Terrific job and a terrific champion in Sam Faulkner. So that's now 2 champions crowned, the cadet champion in Nathan Tighe, the SuperElites champion in Sam Faulkner. There's just 1 more champion to crown here, and that is in the junior contingent for Harry Graham versus Callum Gunning. 1 race to go for each of the classes. It's the last chance of the season to go out on a high. So now we know our 3 champions. That man, Sam Faulkner, has made it back-to-back titles in the previous SuperElites race. So from his point of view, all he has to do is just have fun out there. Just play, and it will be a lovely way to end his season. Taking time out of his very busy schedule at Oxford University now, of course, the last 2 weekends, having just moved there. Michael Roots, so nearly a race winner. And now, with 1 last chance to get the job done, but we know how quick he can be in the wet, so all he needs is a good start, and the race can flow from there. What a superb season this has been, and we're going to have the very last race ever as a birelART UK Championship before we head into a brand new era of the Daniel Ricciardo series, and we're all so excited about it. It's going to be a really, really positive year in 2019 as we wrap things up here at Whilton Mill. And of course, anybody who's wanting to get on the grid, this is the perfect time to do so with a brand new era, a brand new livery, great new kart, and an absolutely perfect end to the season for the juniors. There's still loads of great messages coming in over the course of the day. Jane Flanagan. Oh my days, Alicia. I'm in tears here. Well done, gorgeous girl. She's been so great all season long, hasn't she? Alicia's just been a hard worker all the way through the year. She did a year of testing last year, and everybody was saying, when are you going to race? When are you going to race? And it was, well, we're going to wait till next year. We're going to bide our time. We're going to take it slowly. And it's turned out to be exactly the right call. She's come through in 2018 and won the junior title as a rookie in fine style. But the overall junior title winner, of course, is Harry Graham by just the single solitary point to Callum Gunning. But well done to Callum. He's worked so hard all year long. He will carry the two-plate into 2019 and richly deserved. Either of them would have been a very worthy champion. They've both given as good as they've got over the course of the season. But now we come into the last ever race in red and white, as the drivers are gearing up for a new era, and the seniors are just as excited as the cadets and juniors are about the new transition. There's going to be some hopefully returning faces and some new faces into the world of the Daniel Ricciardo Series next year. If you want to get on the grid, head to the website, danielricciardoseries.com. Plenty of opportunity for karters of all experience levels. You don't need to be a previous racer to compete. If you fancy a go, then do please inquire. Come and have a play. Everybody is welcome. Sam Dimolo getting ready for his last race of the season after what has been a really difficult weekend for everybody. But his fight back in the last race was brilliant to watch. There's Tom Massarella, the end of his first season as a super elite. And he's had all sorts of ups and downs through the year. But the main thing is that he's proven he can run at the front with plenty of gusto. And this man's been getting better and better all through the year. Jason Bradbury, he almost got the tyre strategy call perfectly. Well, he was on the right tyres at the right time. Unfortunately, circumstance got in the way. Another driver on the right-hand side of your picture who's moved up from juniors to seniors very seamlessly indeed. Oliver Moy this weekend, third in qualifying, and then moving his way forward. Good to see familiar faces, though. Ben Yeomans and Mark Lawrence, the man who's been here since day one, and is still very much eager to continue his racing in 2019 in the DRS. There is Sean Port, the 245, and then last year's junior champion, handing a title over to Harry Graham, Tyrone Stansfield, who's acquitted himself well as a senior. Paul Ozan, dominant in terms of his tyre strategy in the first heat, but struggled in the wet last time. There is the next kart in, the 285, a really strong battle all the way through the weekend for all of the drivers in particular, but in this particular race, it's been David Darling working his magic through. Matt Ogle, 2 weeks' time, he'll be on a jet plane to Macau, where his boys will be representing, trying to get another Macau Grand Prix victory. Dan Walden, having won here earlier in the season at Whilton Mill, he won the last final at Whilton, which was about 4 months ago now, 6 months ago now, can't remember, it was so long ago. Then there's Elliot Stanley, and 224 in the mix there as well. Matthew Keeley, who's hoping not to finish his final race of the year the way the last one ended. And there's Neil Fisher, former Open champion, and now hoping to move into the new era as everyone else is on a high. The last race of the year, the last race as birelART UK Series. It's been an emotional journey, but we're ready to close this chapter of our story and move into a brand new one. So, one more race before the new 2019 season, and it's going to be a really exciting battle all the way through this last race of the year. So, Sam Faulkner, and at the front of the field with him, Michael Roots. They'll be on the front row of the starting grid with George Friday and Matthew Pearce in amongst them as well. So basically, all of the fans here will just want a final race to bow out on in style. And it's going to be a really entertaining last race of the year. Everybody will be richly deserving of a one final campaign, one final race to end them all. And it's going to be a nice play. Nobody is under any real pressure here now. It's just for pride and for bragging rights going into the new season. But Sam Faulkner, race winner in the pre-final, is now the new champion once again. Michael Roots in second alongside him on the front row of the grid. George Friday with 2 third places has had an amazing weekend, and hopefully it will now continue. Matthew Pearce alongside him in 4th place. Harry Barlow and Richard Evans are together on the 3rd row of the starting grid. And then it is going to be Ben Hitch, the rookie, alongside Sam Dimolo, who fought his way back to P8 from his earlier pole position in qualifying. And then it's Oliver Moy, who was 3rd originally in qualifying, alongside Tom Massaralla. Both of them juniors who have fought their way up into the Super Elites this year and proven they're just as good with 25cc more power. Ben Yeomans and Jason Bradbury on the 6th row of the starting grid. Mark Lawrence alongside Sean Port. And then, of course, there's going to be a little bit more battles from further back. Several drivers out of position, namely, beside Matt Ogle, Tyrone Stansfield, who's there on the 8th row. He'll want to try a little bit more with the kart in this race. Dan Walden having to fight his way back, as is Paul Ozan, the man who won the heat earlier on, but really struggled in the wet. Then Elliot Stanley beside David Darling on the 10th row of the grid. And then, of course, we'll have 21st and 22nd on the grid. Matthew Keeley and Dave Burns beside each other, as both of them will try and fight their way back through the field. And then, of course, the last two in are Neil Fisher and Jack Golding, although it looks to me as though Jack is not going to take up the start again. And sadly, Will Checkley hasn't been racing since his crash in qualifying. He's okay, but I'm not sure the kart is in very good condition at the moment. So there you have it, the last starting grid of the season. And what an end to the year it's going to be. An absolutely terrific end to the year is going to come to an epic conclusion now in the Super Elites final, with so many top drivers to talk about and to speak home in this last race of the year. It's been another terrific year in the birelART UK Series. Our champions are now confirmed. In cadets, it is Nathan Tye overall. In the rookies, it is Archie Heron. In the juniors, it is Harry Graham overall. And in the rookies, it's Alicia Parmowski. And now it's time to talk home Sam Faulkner, who is already confirmed as the Super Elites champion. And I'm fairly sure it's Mark Lawrence who will hang on to the Grandmasters Championship title in the last race weekend of the season. That was already confirmed, but now no more championships to win. They've already been won. So now it's time for bragging rights. It's a free-for-all, and everyone can have a last banzai race to the victory. Here we go. Micah Roots charges with Sam Faulkner as they head to the first corner. A little bit of splishing and splashing through Oblivion and up to Crook as they drop out of Fine Lady, up Manuel's Bank. And Sam Faulkner is going to have the inside line for Christmas as they get into the hairpin. No problem at all as they switch their way through, round the outside hairpin. The field jostling away for position nicely. But out in front, it is Faulkner from Roots, then George Friday, Evans. 5th place is the number 3, I think, of Matthew Pearce. Yes, it is. And then it's Oliver Moy. And there's a spinner at the back. I think that's Matthew Keeley trying to get the car spun around again and restarted. A little bit of a moment for Friday because Evans has gone through. Pearce is going to get through as well now. But no, Friday gets him back on the switchback as Roots goes for the move on the inside of Sam Faulkner. Brilliant from Roots. He takes the lead into the boot. So Michael Roots has got past Sam Faulkner. No problem at all, and Michael Roots is through, so he grabs the lead of the race. Sam Faulkner now 2nd, and Evans in 3rd. Pearce is 4th, Friday is 5th, then it's Hitch in 6th position. And then it's Dimolo from Barlow, Massaralla, Moy, Lawrence, Yeomans, Bradbury, Ogle, Stanley, Ozan, Fisher. Jack Golding is in the mix. Then it is Port, Darling, Stansfield, Walden and Keeley. But Matthew Keeley, I think, has elected to pull the car into the pit lane. He has not completed the lap. So still great racing at the front as Faulkner is all over the back of Roots. And Ben Hitch makes the move on the inside of George Friday and gets the place. So he's through. They're side by side, but Friday's going to try and come back. A little kick up of the dirt, though, means he's going to have to hang in there as Dimolo gets on the grass and somehow saves the car and then gets a move on Friday and Hitch. What was that from Dimolo? Amazing, and a spin there. I think that's Ben Hitch having gone around. So Ben Hitch is absolutely livid. But I'm fairly sure that's Dimolo. Dimolo's, who's that that's gone off? I think that's Yeomans having gone off. So Yeomans has gone off the circuit at boot and has managed to get going again. But now Dimolo is up to 4th in front of Barlow, Massaralla, Friday, Moy, Lawrence and Bradbury. So Roots is in front of Faulkner. And the leading three have broken well clear of the rest of the field as they now charge up towards Inkermans. But this midfield battle doing great as Friday continues to try and get himself back into the top six. Having been passed by Massarala, now Oliver Moy's got a chance to come through. So they're going to continue to push on. But this is so tight. Very, very close racing indeed. So now they will continue to charge up. And it's a big move there from Oliver Moy as he gets on the inside to defend from Mark Lawrence. A really exciting battle up at the front end of the field. And that's a move on the inside. Is that on George Friday from Moy? Not quite. Can Moy get him on the switchback? He turns into the corners, got the inside line for the final turn, commits to the curb. Friday round the outside, and he's got the place. So Friday stays in front. There's a spin further back. Now that is, I think, Paul Ozan. Paul Ozan has had a spin at Ozier's and he's now down at the back, unfortunately. Tyrone Stansfield and Ben Hitch have both dropped to the back of the field as well. So they are struggling to make progress as Friday is now squabbling with Oliver Moy. Here they go again. Friday trying to come around the outside of Oliver Moy and now gets the switch back for the inside, maybe trying to dive around the outside as Elliot Stanley makes a bid to get past Jason Bradbury and Matt Ogle goes to battle with Neil Fisher. That's David Darling. So Darling spins out there on the exit of Christmas. But Roots and Faulkner still out in front and still the two of them battling away from Richard Evans, the top three having broken clear. But Michael Roots is absolutely determined to beat Sam Faulkner in the last race of the season. He wants a win. Evans is third behind Faulkner. Here's Mark Lawrence on the inside of Friday and gets it. The new Grandmasters champion, Mark Lawrence, running brilliantly. So Roots, Faulkner, Evans, Dimolo, Barlow, Massarala, Moy, Mark Lawrence, Friday, Bradbury, Pearce, Stanley, Ogle, Fisher, Walden, Yeomans and Golding. Then Ben Hitch, Sean Port, Tyrone Stansfield, David Darling, Paul Ozan. And that is all your lot because Matthew Keeley has sadly retired from the race already. So up at the front, it's all good for Michael Roots. He's got enough of a gap to be comfortable over Sam Faulkner at the moment, from Richard Evans in third, then Dimolo, Barlow, Massarala, Moy, Lawrence, Friday, Bradbury, Pearce and Stanley. There's Matt Ogle in 13th in front of Neil Fisher and Dan Walden. So Matt Ogle continuing his run there in 13th place. Big lunge from Dan Walden. Dives up the inside of both Ogle and Fisher and then loses ground on the exit. You compromise yourself by diving for that inside line in the hope it's just going to stick. So it's never going to be very easy. But what an end to the season. A really exciting end as Michael Roots leads Sam Faulkner out. Evans in third. Dan Walden trying to get the switch back on Ben Yeomans into turn one. They're still side by side. Yeomans working very hard there with Walden as now Jason Bradbury gets a move on the inside of Matthew Pearce. Pearce is going to go deep into the braking zone though, and that's a perfect line in the wet. No problem at all as he comes through. Really good racing in the Super Elites finale. So Matthew Pearce, here comes standing up the inside of Bradbury, and that's going to be a move for the position. Is he going to get it done? Yes, he does. Stanley chops across in the braking zone, and that's enough on the exit apex to get the position. Beautifully handled. So now, Roots, Faulkner and Evans a long way in front of our fourth place man. Sam Dimolo, who's a good 3 seconds up the road from Harry Barlow now. Fastest lap of the race is Michael Roots. He's done a 59.724. Even Sam Dimolo can't match that sort of pace. His best is a 59.883. And there is Ogle still scrapping away with Dan Walden. Matt Ogle's looked a lot more comfortable this weekend, but that's a good move from Dan Walden round the outside to move up into, what is that, 14th position. So Michael Roots still running ahead of Sam Faulkner by about a second. He doesn't need to push much more than that. There's a long way to go in this race. 7 minutes and 24 plus the additional lap. Matt Ogle still working his magic around this Whilton Mill circuit. Dan Walden charging after Jason Bradbury, down to the braking zone. Walden's going to try and get the switch back on the exit of Ashby. Side by side, chops across. Bradbury still committing to the inside, but Walden chops across and might get a move on Fisher. Not quite. And there's a spinner. That is 302. That is Massarala. Tom Massarala spins there, unfortunately, at Parker, and he knows what it means. Fisher's gone now. Neil Fisher's gone around. Dear, oh dear. Even the former EasyCard Open champion is not able to handle this circuit. in the current guys. So really tricky conditions here, but a very difficult problem for the drivers as they continue to battle away. A really exciting race in the offing for the rest of the drivers as the final few minutes of the season tick away. There's Jack Golding, having worked himself up into 13th place. He's finally getting a race to be proud of, and that's a spin for Dan Walden now. Walden spins at Christmas as Sean Port gets up alongside Tyrone Stansfield. What a great end to the season. Everybody's got a chance of a great overtake in this season, in this final race of the year. Pound for pound, this is probably the most exciting race of the season in Super Elite, because so much is changing, so much is happening. Roots is your leader from Faulkner. There is Faulkner, the newly crowned champion, in second place to Richard Evans. But ahead of both of them is Michael Roots, about a second clear now. Fourth is Dimolo, then it's Barlow, Moy, Lawrence, Friday. Matthew Pearce now behind Elliot Stanley in 9th and 10th, those two. Bradbury 11th from Jack Golding, Ogle, Hitch, Yeomans, Stansfield, Walden and Sean Port. From Fisher and Massarella, then David Darling and Paul Ozan, who I believe has now pulled into the pits to retire, as Matt Ogle sliding around there in front of Ben Hitch. See, Paul Ozan had the kart set up perfectly for the drive, but in the wet he's just had no... Oh, we've had a spin on the exit of Inkermans, or on the run to Inkermans, I should say. Now, who's that that's gone around? That's Ben Hitch. So Ben Hitch has lost a few places there and has rejoined behind Sean Port in 18th place now. Goodness me, so much chopping and changing in the order. Great racing. That's why we do it. This is what real karting is supposed to be like. Michael Roots, Sam Faulkner and Richard Evans. Sam Dimolo in 4th from Harry Barlow. Oh, and off there, just in front of these guys. Now, who was that? I think that's Matt Ogle who's gone. Yes, Matt Ogle rejoins, just in front of Neil Fisher, but that's another big name to fall by the wayside. He's not going again, but he's down to 16th now, in front of Fisher, Massarella and Darling, with Sean Port down to 20th and Hitch down to 21st. Still 38 seconds covering the whole field. Roots is your leader. There's Faulkner and Evans, the two title rivals, in 2nd and 3rd behind Michael Roots. Just an indication, really, that if Michael had done a full season campaign, he could have been a title contender with these two. Almost won at fullback, don't forget, when he was leading right up until the final lap, when Richard Evans was able to get the pass on it. Well, the closing stages, I should say. Evans had a couple of laps on him, but then unfortunately Evans' title fight race fight faded away at fullback. Now he's got a chance to beat Faulkner in a straight fight, and he wants it. Oh, he's gone very deep into the braking zone. Almost nudges Faulkner. They just about got away with that one. So Sam Faulkner right in there with Evans as they come through the hairpin in Ashby up towards Parker. But Evans would love to beat Faulkner in a straight fight. He's only got 3 minutes and a half or so to do it. But what a great end to his campaign that would be, to get one over on Sam Faulkner right at the last. I'm not sure now that Michael Roots is going to be beaten. Only 3 drivers have cracked a minute around this lap in these conditions, and they are the top 3, Roots, Faulkner and Evans. Michael Roots is far enough ahead that Sam Faulkner needs to really pull his finger out if he wants to win the last race of the year. And Faulkner has just set a new fastest lap, a 59.612. So Faulkner's new fastest lap was 0.03 of a second quicker than Roots' best. So Faulkner's still pushing hard in his bid to move forward. Oh, and a big spin. Further, well, a big slide off the circuit, I should say. Not really a big spin, but that was Dan Walden, I think, having another trip off the circuit there at the boot. So yet another big moment, unfortunately, there for Walden. That slips him down to 15th place as the leaders continue their charge around the circuit. Well, there's very little time to go in this final race of the year. Michael Roots still in front of Sam Faulkner, but Sam has got the gap down to a second. I think it's going to be less than that now. Faulkner's really charging to close up on Michael Roots in the closing stages. Maybe he's just been toying a little bit with Roots, trying to lull him into a false sense of security, because now all of a sudden Sam Faulkner is within a second. 7/10 is now the gap. Sam Faulkner's pulled out another 2/10. Is he going to try once again to snatch the victory off Michael Roots in the final dying minutes of the season? Faulkner has only lost one race all year that he has started, and that was the heat earlier on from Paul Ozan. So now Sam Faulkner is on the charge to complete what is almost a clean sweep. Not quite. But Sam Faulkner charging after Michael Roots in the hope that he can just get one more victory. That would be win number 20 out of 21 starts if he can make that happen. But Michael Roots is pushing very hard to get away. Roots and Faulkner from Evans in third, then Dimolo in fourth, a few seconds up the road from Harry Barlow, who is now really struggling to hold off Oliver Moy. Oliver Moy is right in behind Harry Barlow now. And they've got a few seconds back to the next man in, which is Mark Lawrence, who is going to be crowned Grandmasters champion officially in just a moment or two. It's already been sealed, but he'll finish off the year in 7th overall, which he'll be very happy with in the last race of the year. But still, Michael Roots continues to plug away in front of Sam Faulkner, and I'm not sure if we're going to get another lap in after this one. Well, we're going to get one lap after this one for definite. Are we going to get two? I'm not sure, because when they crossed the line, it was a bit touch and go, to be honest. But Michael Roots is still trying to get away from Sam Faulkner. He would love there to be only one more lap rather than two, because Faulkner is never going to quit. He's never going to back down from the fight. And if anyone's going to snatch a victory away from Michael Roots on the very last lap of the season, it's going to be Sam Faulkner. He's going to go for broke in the boot. Dear, oh dear, Michael Roots nearly lost the victory there. And now Sam Faulkner's going to get in the final turn. No way! Nearly. And now they've got one more lap to go. Last lap of the season. And Faulkner's all over the back of Michael Roots. He just finds the braking zone from a million miles back. And surely now he's going to try again into Christmas. Can he slow the car down as well? Yes, he can, but Roots is going to get him on the undercut. 2 wheels in the air. Roots gets the lead back again, swapping the lead like Billy-O. Roots around the outside, out to the inside. Oh, and running out of road. Roots has gone on the grass. Roots ran out of road there. Faulkner was on the inside, a perfectly legitimate racing line for Faulkner to take, to run to the outside. And now Roots has lost second to Evans as well. Unbelievable. Where does Faulkner find it? Where does he find that speed as Roots gets back on Evans to make up for the loss of the victory? But Sam Faulkner wins for the 20th time in what's been a dominant season. Amazing. Roots is second. Third is Evans. What an end to the season, and what a drive from Sam Faulkner. He came from thousands of yards back and charged his way through. Dimolo is fourth. Barlow is going to be fifth over the line. A good end to the season for Barlow as he beats Moy. And there's Mark Lawrence out of the final turn. Mark Lawrence is the Grandmasters champion for 2018. In the year he clinched his 250th race start in the championship. He's been there since day one back in 2004, and now he's a champion again. Well done to Mark Lawrence, Grandmasters champion for 2018. Elliot Stanley is 8th from Piers Friday, Golding and Walden. But Sam Faulkner finds another level yet again. Astonishing. 20 wins from 21 starts this year, almost the perfect clean sweep. How did he do that? Seriously, how did he do that? Just phenomenal. Sam Faulkner ends the season as a winner, 20 times out of 21 starts. Roots is second from Richard Evans in third. Sam Dimolo in fourth from Harry Barlow in fifth. Oliver Moy in 6th position. Oh, hang on a minute. The Digiboard confirms there's been a penalty. A penalty's been handed to Sam Faulkner. Now, I'm guessing that is because of the move. Let's look at that move again. I'm guessing they've looked at the move and seen that there was contact. I didn't think there was contact, but I'm guessing they've handed a penalty to Sam Faulkner in the last lap of the season. So he's crossed the line, but I think Michael Roots is going to get the win. Let's look at it again. He comes from a long, long way back. Is there contact made? Yes, there is. Only just, though. But it's advantage by contact. Roots has his hand in the air as if to say, come on. And, well, they've given a penalty to Sam Faulkner, so we won't confirm the result then. So Michael Roots, we think, is going to be given the victory. What a dramatic end to the season. The last ever race in the birelART UK Series. Join us for the podium a little bit later, where we'll hand out the final trophies of the year. But what a way to bow out of the birelART UK Series. Thank you to everybody for the memories. It's been an amazing transition and an amazing few years in red and white. Next year, we go blue and white, and we'll lick the stamp and send it all year long next year in the Daniel Ricciardo Series. Bring it on. Hello and welcome back to Whilton Mill. It's the last round of the birelART UK Series 2018. We've had an amazing day of racing. It's been a great season finale, and the last time we all wear red and white, of course, before we hand over to the DRS, the Daniel Ricciardo Series, next year. So let's get our final podium winners of 2018. And so now to our last podium of the 2018 season, which of course is the Super Elites. After a fantastic race in the very end of the championship, we'll hand over first of all the trophy to the Grandmaster champion. He's been here since day one. He's wrapped up the Grandmaster's title as well as the last race of the season. Give it up for Mark Lawrence! Great to see Mark again on the top of the Grandmaster's podium. A great result. Well done, Mark. Great end to the year. And a brilliant result. He can't believe it. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Mark Lawrence. Well done, ladies and gentlemen. So, to our drivers in the top three of Super Elites for the last time, after an amazing season which has seen him clinch the title in third position overall, the number one, Sam Faulkner! A brilliant end to the season. 19 victories over the year and back-to-back Super Elites titles. In second position, a valiant racer all year long and always at the sharp end. The number two, Richard Evans! He's already ready for winter, isn't he? Well done, Richard. A fantastic end to the season. But your last winner of the season, and finally, after a very tough year, great to see him on the top spot. The 236, your last winner of the year, Michael Roots! A brilliant end to the year for Michael. Some great racing all weekend. And great to see the title bow out on a high note. Well done to all of the drivers in the Super Elites category. Photos again on the podium with all of our drivers. Yes, Mark, you may have to hold the trophy. It's how we do things. So there we are, ladies and gentlemen, your final Super Elites podium of 2018. Mark Lawrence, Sam Faulkner, Richard Evans, and your winner, Michael Roots. Michael, no. Why is it the seniors never want to talk to the world's press? Well, the other three have scarred, but Michael, a great end to the season, a really close battle. It was always going to be a tough final, but you must be really relieved at the victory.
I am, yeah. Got to thank Jim and John for all their help over the last few rounds, and hello to my wife and kids who are watching. Is this live?
It is.
Yeah. So hello, guys. Yeah, it was a tough race. I thought in the pre-final, obviously I went off a bit, and I thought I've got to try and stretch myself at the start, and he caught me again in the last few laps. But yeah, it was a little bit of a battle. Shame that he kind of beat me on track still, so that'll always bug me. But yeah, it was good. It's actually good to have a good race with him. When I've raced this year, I've either not been on the pace or got a bit unlucky. So yeah, hopefully I'll have a good year next year.
We'll see you next year in blue and white, mate. Well done.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Michael Roots, ladies and gentlemen. A final word at the end of the last ever birelART UK Series weekend from Andy Cox. Andy, a very emotional end to the birelART brand here in the paddock, but we're really looking forward to seeing the Daniel Ricciardo Series in next year.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, we're still working with Birel and looking forward to welcoming the guys at Ricciardo Kart. I'd just like to thank everybody for supporting the series this year. Thanks to our commentator. And thank you to all my race direction staff who have a real difficult job. You know, obviously trying to keep all the races running and trying to keep everybody happy. You know, I'd like to say a special thanks to everybody in the race support, Don, Jane, Pete, Carol, Stuart, and Lee, and everybody who I've forgotten. But no, it's a lot of work to put the show on, and with the help of Alpha Live, and Sam in the timing and stuff like that. We enjoy it. So I hope you all enjoy it, and I hope you all come back next year. I think we've got the awards evening in January. We'll be at the Autosports show in January as well. I want to say congratulations to all our champions in all 3 classes. So we need to verify everything, and then we will cheer our champions at the awards evening.
Thank you very much. Andy Cox, ladies and gentlemen, your championship coordinator. A fantastic end to a fantastic season. It's goodbye birelART UK. Hello, Danny Ricciardo. See you next year in 2019. Bring it on!